Hello everyone, and welcome to a Path of Exile 2 video. My name is Precaso, and today I will be talking about the massive upcoming Endgame content that is coming in the Return of the Ancients 0.5 expansion. Now, the Endgame is getting a lot of new content added, and it can seem overwhelming at first, but I'm going to try and talk about everything that's going on as best as I can. So let's just jump straight into it. So now when you reach the end game, every mechanic that is in the game will basically have its place on the atlas. So you will have a place where you can physically travel to on the atlas for any mechanic that you would want to target farm. So Abyss has its area, the Vol Temple has its area, Delirium has an area, Ritual has an area, Breach has an area, the Expedition, which is part of the new League, has an area, and then there's the new Fortress area. And then you also have the certain areas for the Masters that are scattered about. So there is a lot going on here. But basically, every one of these mechanics is similar in a way where it has a sort of a loop, where basically you are farming the League mechanic that you want to farm, that you want the rewards for, and then as you continue to farm it, then another objective comes into play that you can then complete to progress towards a pinnacle boss. That's basically this. It's basically the same story for every League mechanic. Only source of skill points for the new Atlas skill tree come from completing maps inside of these fortress walls. Now, the areas inside of these fortress walls often have special, powerful properties that enhance the map and make it much more rewarding. That is what makes farming inside of the fortress worthwhile. Now, whenever you decide to, you can progress towards the objectives, which is technically, with the lore, disarming the weapons of the fortress, and then I guess that will enable you to progress towards the pinnacle boss. Now, from what I understand about Path of Exile, pinnacle bosses are an extreme challenge. You have to have a very powerful character in order to reliably kill them. So that makes farming appropriately and smartly and upgrading your character and making a strong build all the more important, because I'm sure a lot of the drops from these very difficult bosses are going to be valuable just based on the fact of their difficulty level being so high. That is one of the most exciting parts about this expansion, in my opinion, is that there are 5 new pinnacle bosses. The pinnacle boss of the fortress, pinnacle boss of Breach, Delirium, Ritual, and then the new Expedition League. While the other League mechanics will operate similarly to how the fortress does. So for example, for Delirium, you will run Delirium maps and just interact with the League content as you would normally map until eventually a Grand Mirror, I believe it's called, will appear on your atlas. That will have the objective of fighting a twin boss, which will then allow you to apply layers of Delirium on your atlas until you go into a simulacrum, which will then provide you with the pinnacle boss fight of Delirium. So you're basically farming Delirium maps, and then if you decide to, you can pursue ramped up Delirium in the form of Delirious maps, and that will lead you to the pinnacle boss of Delirium, who I'm sure is also insanely deadly. And similarly with Ritual, when you're farming the Ritual maps, any excess tribute from your rituals will now go towards a progress bar, I guess, that will then reveal the location of a boss that will then unlock the objective of a 5-map long ritual. That is where you complete a map and all of the rituals of that map carry to the second map. And then once you complete the second map, all of those rituals dogpile onto the third and the fourth and the fifth map. And once you complete that, then you are able to go to the pinnacle boss. You can imagine how insanely deadly the pinnacle boss must be. It must be at least as difficult as 5 maps of dogpiled bosses and monsters in one ritual, because that's the prerequisite. I should also quickly mention that Delirium is rewarding us with emotions that can anoint amulets and also can now craft jewels, I believe. And now the ritual windows are giving unique items and omens. So if you want to hunt down a lot of uniques, ritual seems like an awesome choice. And then there's also Breach, where basically you're farming breaches. Once the breach is completely opened up, the monsters will start dropping hive blood, and that hive blood is what fuels the Genesis tree, which is, I suppose, the primary reward of Breach. You can use the Genesis tree to craft and I'm sure do all sorts of very interesting things that we're probably not going to know the full details of until we're in the game. But once you accumulate 300 splinters, you can use the hive blood in the Genesis tree to make a breach stone, and that will lead you on the way to the sky hives, which will lead you to the pinnacle boss, which I'm sure is not going to be too much easier than the other ones. I'll be covering the expedition mechanic, which is a part of the new league, in a separate video, so please stay tuned for that video. I think the new league mechanic is absolutely awesome, and I cannot wait to explore it. But in a nutshell, that is how the new endgame works. We have all of the league mechanics that are physically present on the Atlas. You can farm the league content that you want to, and they each give a unique reward. And they can have follow-up objectives which scale the league mechanic a bit and then lead to a very deadly pinnacle boss. Now, Path of Exile has never been known for going easy on players, so you better prepare your best build and come up with your best farming strategies in order to equip your character to slay these behemoths.